It's the Opperman Report. And now, here is investigator Ed Opperman.
Okay, welcome to the Opperman Report. I'm your host, private investigator Ed Opperman. You can find me at Opperman Investigations and Digital Forensic Consulting, either through my website, emailrevealer.com, or you can just email me directly at oppermaninvestigations@gmail.com. If you like our show, be sure and check out our Patreon. You go to Patreon, Opperman Report. We upload about 8 hours of new content every month that you won't find on AM/FM radio or on Spreaker or on the internet. But our archives are free. You go to Spreaker Archives, you get them free. I do a live show there every Friday night. You get an email notification when there's new content. And also, too, there's a chat room as well. So all those archives are free. I'm really excited about today's show. He's one of these guys. Before the show, we're talking. We can't stop talking. Okay, he's one of the lively guys. Bradley C. Birkenfeld. Now, he was some kind of investment banker with Swiss bank accounts and stuff like that. And he's written a book called, what is this here? Lucifer's Banker Uncensored. Now, that's the second version of the book. Because the first book, there were some things that he had to censor. Now we got a whole list of names here: Barack Obama, Joe Biden, Hunter Biden, Hillary Clinton, Julian Assange. This is going to be fantastic blockbuster stuff. Check out his website, lucifersbanker.com. Mr. Birkenfeld, are you there?
I am here, Ed. Thank you for having me on your show.
I'm having fun already, man. I'm telling you. Okay. Tell us, who is Bradley C. Birkenfeld?
Well, it's a great question, and for your audience, I want to make it clear so they understand the complexity behind who I am in that regard. I'm an American citizen. I live in Malta, which is south of Sicily, over in the Mediterranean. I grew up in the Boston area, went to school to the oldest private military school in the United States, where ROTC was founded. That's Norwich University up in Vermont. Studied in London, and then became a currency trader in Boston for a very large bank, State Street Bank, and then went over to Switzerland after about 4 years to get my master's in finance, and then worked for three of the most prestigious banks there in Switzerland, Credit Suisse, Barclays, and UBS in Geneva, Switzerland. I've got two older brothers I grew up with in the Boston area, and who still live in the States. And then I've really made a career for myself in private banking in Switzerland. And now I'm retired here in Malta.
What made you choose Malta?
Malta is a great spot because it's an English-speaking island.
Okay.
And it also it's very conducive for travel to Europe, for boating, for cuisine. The history is quite unique. And I really enjoy this part of the world, and it's fascinating because I'm someone who really loves the history part of wherever I live in the world.
Okay, so now Lucifer's Banker. Okay, this is the story of, I guess, you whistleblowing on Swiss bank accounts and tax evasion, that kind of thing? Money laundering?
Well, this is it. I was the largest whistleblower in U.S. history that exposed the largest and longest-running tax scandal in the world at UBS in Switzerland. The UBS desk alone for the Americas, for the United States of America, had 19,000 accounts and $20 billion in assets. Now, these were all illegal accounts. Illegal meaning they were not tax avoidance, they were tax evasion. They did not declare these accounts, hence why they paid high fees. So when you think about 19,000 millionaires and billionaires, these are some of the most powerful and prestigious people in the United States. Why? Because if you were rich in America, you were rich enough to put millions of dollars over in Switzerland. And our minimum account size, by the way, was $1 million. So this wasn't the paper boy or the plumber or the bartender.
Is any of this like money laundering too?
Money laundering, tax evasion, and then it gets worse because if you don't have accountability and transparency, Ed, as I've told people time and time again, this is very important to understand. What will happen is you'll have nefarious acts off of this tax evasion and money laundering, meaning you could do bribery, extortion, insider trading, you could do gun smuggling, arms sales, drug dealing, and so on and so forth. Why? Because there's no accountability and transparency on these secret numbered accounts in Switzerland. And that's what's very, very dangerous. And that's what I complained about several times to the Department of Justice, but they just blew me off and they didn't want to hear what I had to say.
Well, Bradley, you had to know going into this that this is, everybody knows Swiss bank accounts is where the money's hidden. So you had to know walking in, you're walking into a room full of sharks.
Well, certainly I know exactly what I was doing, but here's the real twist of the story, and this is very important for your audience to understand. The very fact is what we did in Switzerland was legal under the Swiss Constitution.
Okay.
You could come over and open a bank account. You could put your money there and never pay tax again, whether you were Swiss or French or American or whatever. The problem is what you do with your tax returns. I don't sign people's tax returns. That's an individual thing. That's between a client and their accountant, not the banker. If you want to, it's like someone selling you a gun. If I sell you a gun and you kill someone, do you blame the gun salesman? No, it's the man who bought the gun, as long as you did the proper measures to, vet them and so on and so forth. So, again, it's important to understand that what we did in Switzerland was legal. The problem was what the bank was telling us to do was travel to the United States 4 times a year, every quarter, aggressively see existing clients and get new potential clients. That's where we were not licensed, and that's where we were effectively going out of our way to do this business. And that's when I blew the whistle on the bank and said, I'm not doing this anymore. And I resigned.
Gotcha. Hey, now, since it's a numbered account and it's all secret, are there any instances where somebody deposits money into the Swiss account and then the bank just says, well, get lost, tough luck? Anything like that?
Well, we've had a lot of cases where, for instance, we've had people who are married. Let's just pick a couple. Let's say the Smiths. They're married, and
right.
The husband is my client, but the wife doesn't know anything about this. And when the husband dies, he gives instructions to make sure the money goes to, say, a mistress or his second family of kids or whatever. And I did that on several occasions where I had to approach people who never even knew me, and they thought, well, why are you talking to me? I said, well, Mr. Smith said that you were to get this money upon his death, and he's died. I mean, it was really quite shocking. And so that happened on a fair amount of times, because what happens, remember, people hide money in Switzerland for various reasons. Yes, to evade taxes, that's one. But also because they probably don't trust a spouse or they don't trust their business partner, right? So this gives you that anonymity, it gives you this secrecy, it gives you this protection, like your piggy bank overseas. Should anything ever go wrong, I can always fall back on my 2 million, 5 million, 50 million, whatever the account size is in Switzerland. Switzerland obviously was making big fees off of this, so they knew exactly what they were doing. It was a one-way street for the money. It would come in, and it would rarely leave.
Let me ask you a question. What do you do now? I know you wrote this book, Lucifer's Banker, Uncensored, and you go around, you do speaking gigs and stuff like that. But what do you do now? I know you got a big reward there, right? Like $100 million for whistleblowing there. But what do you do? Do you do something for a living?
Well, what I do is I lecture, as you say, and on my website people can see where I've lectured in the past, and I'll continue to do that under the events icon there. I wrote this book, of course, and I promote it with the lectures. But also I'm working now with some groups here in Europe to do a TV series and or a movie on the book, because it's so critical for people to understand the magnitude of what I did. It transformed $1 trillion industry, literally.
Right. And that's okay. Now, what motivated you to become a whistleblower, and then you somehow wound up in trouble with a conviction?
Well, the problem was I trusted the Department of Justice, the same Department of Justice that went after General Flynn. I mean, these are the types of people we're dealing with. These are civil servant hacks who don't even do their job, and they're more interested in padding their career than actually performing justice. So the problem was I came forward to try and do the right thing. And when I resigned, when I went to my legal and compliance department as a director of the bank in Geneva, they refused to answer me, and I resigned. And when I resigned, I then went to my board of directors of the bank in Zurich and complained and said, this is your problem now. And they called an investigation and covered it up. And then I finally came to my government, the U.S. government, and they attacked me. I was the only one attacked because they didn't want to do their job, and they didn't want to see a whistleblower getting the credit for something they should have uncovered 5 decades ago.
Well, also, I'm sure that some of the people you were blowing the whistle on were very powerful people, that probably politicians in the U.S. government that didn't want their secrets being blown.
Well, but obviously, 19,000 millionaires and billionaires who were furious. But the problem was this: people like Kevin Costner and Leonard Lauder had accounts there. People I'm suing now in the state of Florida, pending litigation. But here's the problem. The problem is that you also have agencies like the CIA and the NSA using secret accounts in Switzerland. And the problem with that is that's undermining our whole society. You know, this has to stop, this whole idea that the CIA is untouchable. No, they aren't untouchable. They have to be exposed for what they're doing. Yes, they're doing a certain job. I understand that. But the problem is a lot of these idiots go rogue, and they get us into trouble, and they embarrass the United States. They don't make us proud.
Bradley,
I can give you countless examples of this.
You're such a savvy guy, but you must have been aware that the CIA was using these secret bank accounts, and by going to the DOJ, that you're looking for trouble.
Well, you know, I always look for trouble. As I say in the book, I'm a hammer looking for nails. That's what I say. And but the more important thing, Ed, it's important for everyone who's listening to your program and who might tell a friend or a colleague about this, is that when you see something wrong in society, if you don't report it, you become part of the problem. It's that simple.
I hear
Silence is complicity.
I hear you.
And here's the thing: that sure, I could have just gone off into the sunset and done my thing and kept working and all that, but I knew deep down it was wrong, and I felt as though it was important to report it. And when I tried to report it, they shunned me. So when you shun me, then I got to take it to the next level. The next level being is that I'm going to expose this because this is the right thing to do. And it's important for your audience to know is when I quit the bank, UBS in Geneva, Switzerland, back in 2005, actually the whistleblowing law had not been passed yet. So I didn't do it for the money because there was no law for money. The law didn't pass until December 2006, a year and a half later. So that's very important to keep in mind in the timeline of things between why I whistleblew, why I quit my $1 million job, and why I continued to pursue this and came to my own government to report it. So I think a lot of people who read my book, Lucifer's Banker Uncensored, will really understand how corrupt the Department of Justice is, how corrupt Barack Obama and Joe Biden and Hillary Clinton really are. And I would debate them, any one of those people, anywhere at any time at my expense. And I've got no offers. Not one.
I'm still not clear how it is you get convicted on the one hand, but on the other hand, you get a $100 million reward for whistleblowing.
Well, this is how it happened. Yeah. The Department of Justice was furious that I was a whistleblower. One, they don't get the credit for this. They tried to claim they got the credit for it, like we caught them. No, they didn't catch me. I came to them. So that's the first lie by the DOJ. The second thing is, if they were so great with their hundreds of agents and multi-million-dollar budgets, why didn't they uncover it? The third thing is, when I put it under their nose and made them smell it and had to educate them on what was going on their watch, they blew me off like I didn't know what I was doing, like I was just some kid. Well, unfortunately, I was much smarter than them because I knew exactly what I was talking about, and they were the civil servant hacks that they are, and they continue to be. I mean, it's a joke. The Department of Justice, it's not about justice. It's about people building their careers. So what happened was, when I brought it forward after all of this, they got so angry, and they felt as though to block me from getting a whistleblowing award, they would indict me. They thought that would work. Well, unfortunately, they're not as smart as I am, because I fired my first lawyers who got me into this mess, and I hired the attorneys who actually wrote the whistleblowing law in the U.S. Congress. And in that law, the new law, which the DOJ obviously didn't read, states if you did not plan and initiate the act, you're entitled to an award. And that is the key crux to why the DOJ was furious with me, and they only indicted me. Nobody else. None of my bosses, none of my colleagues. I was the only one in the financial crisis as a banker to go to jail. Think about that.
Did you wind up doing time?
I did 30 months.
30 months. But you had $100 million in the bank, though, when you're doing time.
No. I didn't get paid until I got out. I didn't get paid until I get out. So,
bar against it there, right?
Well,
brother.
It's important for people to understand. Why is it that you're putting the whistleblower in jail and letting everyone else go? And the reason why, it's very simple, is when I went to the U.S. Senate, and because the DOJ would not give me a subpoena. I said, just give me a subpoena. I said, we're not giving it to you. I said, well, I'm not giving you the names because I would have gone to jail in Switzerland where the laws are very strict on giving up client confidentiality. So I said, until I get a subpoena, you're not getting the names. Well, I gave them one name, and I was allowed to give this name because he was involved in terrorist finance. He dealt directly with Saddam Hussein. His name was Abdulaziz Abbas.
Sure.
He lived in a $50 million condominium on the 46th, 47th floor of the Olympic Tower in New York. And I said, this guy's making illegal oil sales with Saddam Hussein. And they looked at me and they thought, this guy's talking nonsense. I said, here's his address, here's his phone number. He used to call my boss, who had a secret phone just for him, because he had 6 numbered accounts with over $420 million in it. Now, why would an Iraqi be on the U.S. desk? Well, because he lived in America, which means he's liable for U.S. tax, period. And he was breaking the UN embargo of 1991 on oil trading with Saddam Hussein and his regime. Another felony. Oh, but the DOJ says we're not interested in non-Americans. I said, oh, those must be the same non-Americans you weren't interested in that flew the planes into the World Trade Center. Those were non-Americans as well. Were you interested in them? They got very contentious, I can tell you. Almost got in a fist fight in the DOJ.
I can imagine.
These people are useless. They're absolutely useless. So I gave them a plum client, $420 million, Iraqi national, $50 million condo in New York City, and you don't go after him? Why? Is he a spook? Is he CIA? I don't care. That doesn't make it right that the guy's got $420 million stashed away in 6 numbered accounts in Switzerland. I even have it in my book. When your audience reads my book, if they read it, they'll see his name, all the accounts, when they were opened, the fees we were charging him. And, Ed, his code name was Rose and Eagle. Now, why would an Iraqi have a code name of Rose and Eagle? Sounds like a CIA operative, doesn't it?
It does. I would definitely recommend people check out the book Lucifer's Banker Uncensored, and also check out the website lucifersbanker.com. Even right now, you should go there right now as we're talking, because very complicated story. And I'd say, not that you don't tell it well, because you're a very good storyteller, but it is a complicated story, my friend. Why are you suing Kevin Costner and Leonard Lauder? And for what?
Well, that's a very good question.
Yeah.
Number one, both of them had accounts at UBS in Geneva, which they won't admit under pains and penalties of perjury. Their lawyers talk nonsense. But when I first came out with my book, I put their names in my book.
Okay.
But no publisher would publish my book, Ed, because I had this information about Barack Obama and Hillary Clinton in there, and they didn't want to have it published before the election, in which Trump ultimately won in 2016. So I self-published the book. And then when I had the names put in there and we were about to release it, Kevin Costner's lawyers and Leonard Lauder's lawyers sent me threatening letters, as well as to my publisher, said, if you don't change this, we could sue you. So the publisher said, we're not publishing unless we remove these. I said, I have proof that they had accounts. He said, we're still not doing it. So I had to change the book and pull the names out, which are now in the new book, Lucifer's Banker Uncensored, because I got Republic publishers who agreed to publish the names and put that information in there because it's factual. So the fact is, when they sued me, they didn't sue me. They were threatening to, which scared my publisher. And it's a typical ploy by these rich billionaire magnates and Hollywood bozos. So I said, okay, well, I'm suing you now. So I've sued both of them in the state of Florida, where I lived at the time when I launched the book in 2016. And that case is ongoing right now. So we'll have some updates probably in the next 4 to 6 months. But I'm very happy to know that I know what I'm talking about. Why? because I went to the SEC, the IRS, the DOJ, the U.S. Senate, and I gave them all of this information. So if I was lying to them, they should have indicted me for lying, which they never did.
Can you clarify for me, what are the grounds you're suing them on for damages of silencing the book or sales and stuff like that?
The legal terminology is tortious interference.
Okay.
What they did was they interfered with the livelihood of my book sales, and they tarnished it. They hurt the book sales. They certainly hurt movie and TV rights and so on and so forth. And it was 4 years since I wanted to publish it, and now we just finally got it out this year. Actually, right before the election, we got my book out, and I was very happy about that. So, yeah, that's where we're going with the lawsuit. And what's interesting for your audience, if anyone has any doubt, Leonard Lauder's mother, Estee Lauder.
Oh, that's who that is. Okay.
She was my account at the bank. When she died, their law firm in New York sent me her death certificate, and we wired the money to them. Now, that was an illegal account, and her son had an illegal account. But more than that, Ed, your audience also has to know, Leonard Lauder claimed to be a devout Jew. Now, why would a devout Jew leave millions of dollars in a Swiss bank that screwed the Jews during the Holocaust? That's a very good question, isn't it?
It's a fascinating question. Lucifersbanker.com. There's a ton of information on here. Now, you mentioned, by the way, too, the president's only in office for another 50 days or so, and you want to get a pardon, right?
I think I'm entitled to a pardon because what I've done for this United States, you have to understand what's happened as a result of my actions. Unprecedented actions. $25 billion have come back to the United States. The offshore banking industry in Switzerland has been destroyed because of me. 100 Swiss banks have made agreements with the U.S. government not to do this business, and over 100,000 Americans have become tax compliant because of Brad Birkenfeld. Think about that for a moment, Ed. That means every year the money that came back into U.S. banks from Swiss banks gets invested and taxed through perpetuity, forever. So I've effectively brought back so many billions of dollars for America. Can you name any other American in history that's brought back $25 billion to America?
So what kind of steps can the average person take to help you get a pardon?
Call the White House. Just give them my name. Call your senator. Say, look, put in a good word for Mr. Birkenfeld. He got really cheated by Barack Obama and the corrupt DOJ, the same ones that went after General Flynn. And all I'm saying is that why was I the one who brought them everything, and then they attacked me? So anyone who can help to put in a good word to the president and his people around him, all I'm saying is, look, I don't generally ask people for favors, but all I'm saying is that I think when people read my book and they hear my story and they see what I did for America, this is so powerful. It's so historic. And I'm thinking this is very important for the story to be told.
It's an incredible story. Now, you told me off the air before that you met with Julian Assange a few times. Now, how does he fit into all this?
Well, the story, Ed, is very important to understand the complexity of what happened with UBS and the Barack Obama and his administration. So what happened, in essence, was I'll take a step back here. When I went to the U.S. Senate, I testified there for about 10 hours and gave them piles of documents and told them the whole story because they subpoenaed me, which I requested, which protected me in Switzerland. Okay, that's important. More importantly, those Senate hearings, that was behind closed doors, but the Senate hearings that were later held, there was a senator on that committee. That senator was Senator Barack Obama.
Okay.
He never showed up for any of the hearings. And he's going to claim he was running for president, which is fine. But those hearings were to discuss the criminal conduct of UBS that I exposed. At the very same time that Barack Obama, Senator Obama, didn't show up for those hearings, he was accepting bundled campaign contributions in the millions of dollars from Robert Wolf, the chairman of UBS in New York. So when you want to talk about treason and you want to talk about tax returns of the president, Barack Obama is guilty. Not only is he guilty, he's blatantly guilty because he was accepting monies from the bank that he was supposed to be investigating. Nobody talks about this, Ed.
You know what else, too? Obama, when he was a senator, when he was in Congress, was involved in that whole tiny house business down there in Haiti, too, with the Clintons and Wesley Clark and the Bushes. He was up to his neck in all that, too. He wasn't even a president. He was in Congress. He's not the squeaky clean guy people like to think he is. But how does Assange fit into this?
Well, see, this is it. So what happened was, to settle the UBS case, Barack Obama put Hillary Clinton in charge of the investigation. Now, ask yourself this. Why is the Secretary of State involved? Not Treasury, not FBI, not DOJ. Hillary Clinton? Why? Because she was protecting all of her donors who had secret accounts at UBS. So, it continues. And how do I know all of this? Because, one, I worked there and I exposed it. But number two, Hillary Clinton, out of the 19,000 names, only got 4,700. That's a 75% failure rate. Secondly, she only fined the bank $580 million.
Wow.
Wait a minute. Why wouldn't you fine them for all the monies we made, the profits? But Hillary didn't do that. And the third thing is, and we found this out later thanks to Julian Assange, and this is, I'll get to why I went to visit him. What had happened was there was a secret WikiLeaks cable released, and that cable that got released clearly stipulated that Hillary Clinton and the Swiss government needed to find a political solution to the UBS case. That document is on my website. That document is in my book. But what it says in particular, UBS agreed to shut down a company operating in Iran, out of Switzerland, and to take 2 Chinese Uyghurs from Guantanamo Bay and settle them in Switzerland to settle the UBS case. Now, Ed, what I just told you, if people can comprehend what I've said here, this was a cover-up of quintessential proportions. And every single American, Democrat or Republican or independent, got cheated by Hillary Clinton, Joe Biden, and Barack Obama. Period.
Fascinating.
So when I went to see Julian Assange to confirm that document, that actual WikiLeaks document that got released and published, and it's in my book and on my website, I said to him, when I walked in, and they frisked me and took my phones and all of this and so forth, and I spent an hour with Julian in the Ecuadorian embassy on the first visit. And I gave him my first book, and he gave me 2 of his books. And we just bantered, but he had the actual document I'm just talking about now, the secret cable. And he said, I think you're interested in this. I just looked at him. I was shocked. And I said, are there more documents about Hillary Clinton and her nefarious acts? He goes, I have countless things on Hillary Clinton. So I sat there with him, and we talked, and we talked, and we talked about why such a document shows the criminal conduct of Hillary Clinton, along with Barack Obama and Joe Biden, because they were all part of this. They knew what was going on. These were their donors in Switzerland who had secret numbered accounts, who they let them off the hook. And 350 million Americans got cheated by Barack Obama, Joe Biden, and Hillary Clinton.
If Assange has more dirt on the Clintons, why doesn't he release it?
He's in jail right now.
Yeah, I know, but then?
Oh, I'm sure more's going to come out. He's got operatives. I talked to him about this, and he's got operatives out there who have information, I'm sure, that will be launching things out there. Hillary Clinton certainly shouldn't be anywhere near politics nor any business venture whatsoever. She should be indicted.
Now, Hunter Biden, what's going on with that?
Well, this is an interesting case. When I was in Malta, where I live, and where I'm talking to you from right now, from my home, I got a phone call from a good friend of mine, Walt Pavlo, in Boston, who said, look, I've got this gentleman who wants to become a whistleblower. I said, really? I said, what's he do? He said, he's a psychiatrist. I said, well, don't waste my time, please. I don't need to talk to a psychiatrist about this guy being a whistleblower. He said, no, you got to understand. I said, okay, tell me the story. So he said, look, he was Hunter Biden's psychiatrist for 3 straight months. Hunter lived with him for 3 months. I said, what? Why would he live with him for 3 months? He says, that's what I'm trying to tell you. This guy wants to monetize this information. I said, you got to be kidding me. And so then all of a sudden he says, I can set it up. I said, have Keith Abloh give me a call, the psychiatrist who took care of Hunter Biden for 3 straight months. This is all in my book, by the way, and it's on my website. So what happened was he had taken care of Hunter Biden for all of his problems, girls and prostitutes and drugs and whatever else. He did money laundering, tax evasion, and so forth. And he had these conversations with him. But the problem is this. Keith Abloh ultimately lost his license to practice medicine.
Right.
So there's no more the client-doctor privilege. But also, if you know about illegal acts, you cannot hide behind the confidentiality of a doctor or a lawyer for that matter. If there's an illegal act, you have to disclose that. Okay. So what happened was when Hunter Biden finally left after 3 months of his treatment, which must have cost a fortune back in 2018, what happened? He left his laptop, his diary, and all of his notes. So Keith Abloh wanted to become a whistleblower. So I said, look, I can put you with my attorney who wrote the law. I don't have to be there. He's in Washington. This will help you, and so forth. 2 separate occasions, he canceled the meetings in Washington. So then I called my attorney, and I went up and I testified with the investigators with Senator Grassley. And I spoke to them for 2 hours about this and told them the whole story in February 2020 about Hunter Biden's psychiatrist knows a lot more, and we need to know this for your committees that you're investigating the transgressions of Hunter Biden and the Biden family. Furthermore, when I left the Capitol Hill offices of Senator Grassley's investigators in February, 3 days later, Keith Abloh's home was raided by the DEA, and they took all the notes and the laptop.
But Hunter Biden was able to get those items returned, correct?
We don't know which laptop we're talking about now.
Okay.
This laptop, and his psychiatrist knows much more than anybody else. Why? Well, if you live with your psychiatrist for 3 straight months, I'm certainly sure you know everything about that person.
Now, it's very unusual for a patient to live with their psychiatrist. How did that come about?
For 3 months, Ed.
Yeah, right, for 3 months especially. How did this come about?
I mean, I know relationships that don't last 3 months, let alone a doctor and his client.
Yeah.
And so I asked him the question. He said, well, he requested treatment, and he lived in the compound with him there. But I looked at my friend Walt, and I said, this is bizarre. I've never heard of such a thing. So that's Hunter Biden and the Biden family. I mean, this family is ingrained with corruption. And I think what people have to understand, I'm not just saying this. I'm saying this because this is fact. I sat with him. I went to Senator Grassley's people. Furthermore, I got more information about Hunter Biden, and I went to Senator Johnson's committee when I was in Washington in October of this year and testified with his investigators for 2 hours and gave them information and documents and so forth.
Well, let me ask you this.
Whistleblowers?
If Dr. Abloh is in possession of really, explosive information, he's got a laptop, got a diary, all this kind of stuff, and he's saying, hey, I want to monetize this information. Do you think it's possible that the Biden family, who have a lot of money, Hunter Biden seems to have a lot of money, traveling all over the world with his hand out, asking for money, and John Kerry's son, too, and a buddy of his, is it possible that he monetized this through the other end?
It's definitely possible. I couldn't tell you exactly what happened, but I could tell you this. If what I put in my book was wrong, they should sue me, obviously, but it's not wrong. It's fact, number one. Number two, I have much more information about the transgressions of Hunter Biden in Ukraine and in Romania because I was just in Romania 3 weeks ago. And I do my homework, and I know people, and I get information. And the problem with the Bidens is it's all smoke and mirrors. And the very fact that these people have been doing this business for so long, and they're cozying up to China, which I feel, quite frankly, this COVID virus came from, whether it was manufactured or released or whatever, Clearly it came there. No one's denying that. So why would you ever give them 1 ounce of attention when the Americans have died and have fallen ill and businesses have gone bankrupt? And Joe Biden is snuggling up with the Chinese? This is outrageous.
When you were there with Abloh, why didn't he turn over the laptop to you? Bo Dietl was involved in this too somehow, right? Yeah, Bo Dietl was involved in this too somehow, right?
He said he had the laptop in his safe with the notes and the diary. Now, obviously, he knows a lot more than what's in those items.
Yeah.
But I didn't want them. I said, don't give them to me. He didn't offer them to me, to be honest with you. He didn't offer them to me. But he wanted them monetized. I said, Keith, I'm not going to give you money. I will do something better. I will put you in touch with my attorney where you get attorney-client privilege. You can file your whistleblowing claim, and you can go from there. Well, he didn't take my advice. He canceled 2 meetings I set up for him. Then I went to Senator Grassley's investigators and testified because it was my duty as an American to report what I knew was illegal.
How much was Abloh asking for?
$2 to $3 million.
That's about right. That's about right. Okay. Let me ask you a question. Good. There's a lot of bizarre. Where the personal life of Hunter Biden is super creepy. With his brother's widow, this business, and then there was something in those.
The prostitute.
Yeah, the prostitute. Yeah. But also too, this whole business about how his ex-wife, I guess, who's the brother's widow, insisted that he be kept away from a 14-year-old daughter, and that the police should be called if he was around that kid. Now, what did that come up with Abloh?
Well, we didn't get into those particular details, but obviously, if think of it this way, you and I, or anyone listening, could have a lunch together, and we could have an hour lunch, a 2-hour lunch, maybe a bottle of wine, whatever, and we could learn a lot about each other in an hour or 2 hours. You live with someone for 3 months, and he's treating you? So, let your audience make that decision. This, to me, was so shocking. I was in Malta, and I said, I'll get the next flight to Boston, and we'll get this meeting set up. And we did. And that's when I was shocked when I heard what I heard. I had to see it for myself, Ed. That's the way I operate. I do my homework, and I do it well.
No, I can tell. I got a lot of respect. Trust me. And let me ask you a question now. Have you talked to Abloh since the DEA raid?
No, I just sent him an email. I said, don't ever talk to me again.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I told him. I said, because you blew up 2 meetings with my attorney, which is rude, number one. Number 2, you could have been protected. Now you're fresh out of Friends. He got divorced several years ago. He got kicked off the Fox network for whatever reason. And then he lost his license because supposedly he was fooling around with some female clients and he settled out of court. So you're divorced, you're off the show, you lost your license to practice, and then the DEA raids your home. Well, geez, let's just add a cherry on top of that sundae. I mean, that's wonderful.
Did you ever uncover what was the instigation for the DEA raid? Was there who signed the search warrant? Did Bo look into that?
He did. I believe they looked into it, but you know something? It was either to get the laptop to destroy it. And I told Senator Grassley's investigators, you better make sure the DEA is told to preserve that laptop and everything that's on it. I believe what has happened was that laptop was reproduced, and that's what you saw down in Maryland. The one that, at least that's my theory, the one that was with Keith Abloh, with his client, that was there on the premises in his safe in Newburyport, Massachusetts.
Oh, wait a minute. You think that they took the laptop from Keith Abloh's safe, they duplicated it, and gave it to that guy, the computer repair guy. I believe that. Is that what you're saying?
But that's my theory.
That's a theory.
This way.
Yeah.
I'm sitting, I could care less who this computer guy is, but I damn well know I'm sitting here in front of a psychiatrist who treated Hunter Biden for 3 straight months. I have photographs. I've got proof of it. The drugstore, everyone. I did my homework. He was there for 3 straight months. In my book, you see pictures of him. Right. So here's the thing. Wait a minute. Why would the DEA raid his home 3 days after I testified on Capitol Hill? Who's behind that? Were they tapping my phone? Probably. They're probably tapping the phone now. Hi, guys.
Trust me, this phone is tapped. Okay, trust me. But now, have you worked out the timeline? Do the dates match up with that theory? Because that sounds like a really good theory.
Well, remember, it was in February.
Okay.
February 11th, I testified. February 14th, happy Valentine's Day, his home gets raided by the DEA.
Right.
And then that laptop mysteriously pops up in September. Oh, I see. Interesting.
When did Hunter Biden get his laptop back?
I don't think he ever did.
It was reported, I believe, in the New York Post that his lawyers got it back.
Oh, yes. They actually, a few months after the DEA took it, he got it back. You're correct. So that would be sometime around May or June. Well, maybe someone copied it and then put it on another laptop and gave it to this clown down in Maryland.
Yeah, that's definitely possible. But now let me ask you a question, Mr. Birkenfeld. If we're looking at suspects who could pull something like that off, who could get the DEA to raid someone's house and get a judge to sign a search warrant on a doctor? Man, he was a doctor at the time, I guess, right? Couldn't Rudy Giuliani pull something like that off?
Well, I'm not going to say Rudy Giuliani would have pulled something that off.
Someone like Rudy.
Someone else may have been able, or maybe Senator Grassley's investigators had something to do with it and said, hey, we've got evidence in this house. We want it. And maybe they went up. I don't know. I mean, there's so many. I don't even want to speculate too much, but there's so many players out there who could have done this. Now, you just don't know who's in charge of what anymore because you don't know who to trust because there's fake media and all the nonsense today. So what really has to be told is subpoena Keith Ablow, put him on the stand, raise your right hand. Now, if you don't want to answer because you say you've got a doctor-client privilege, that's false because you're no longer a doctor to practice. Second, if you know of illegal conduct, you must disclose and divulge that. That's why I went to the Hill and testified in front of the investigators for 2 hours in the Senate Finance Committee.
I tell you, the real movie should be about the laptop, man. The real movie should be about your story with Ablow and the laptop. I think that's where the real interesting stuff is. Now, what did you know? Does Hunter Biden and Joe Biden have accounts in Switzerland? Do you know anything about that?
Well, here's the thing. Hunter Biden and Joe Biden, there was a lot of money moving out of, and, you know, again, a lot of your audience is going to say, how does he know all of this? Well, I did my homework. A lot of money was moving out of Tanzania and Romania. Why? Because a lot of these areas, monies could be moved easily. Where did Joe Biden go on his very first trip as vice president? He went to Bucharest, Romania. You can check it. Your audience can fact check this. Don't take my word for it. Check it yourself. I always do my homework, as I say. And he had an ambassador there that Obama put in, who was Joe Biden's best friend, a New Jersey businessman, real estate man, actually. Now, you might be saying, well, geez, what does that all mean? Well, if you connect the dots and you see exactly why that man was there, I'll guess his exact name for you. His name is Mark Gittenstein, a political appointee, and he had his mission from 2009 to 2012 in Bucharest. Interesting. Well, he's the man who has done a lot of these nefarious things to help Joe Biden. He was getting salaries of $25,000 a month on a big real estate fund in Romania. Oh, how interesting. Why isn't there any investigation of Mark Gittenstein on that? As well as all the other operations they were running there with Tanzania and moving monies through Romania to Geneva, Switzerland.
Bradley Birkenfeld, I got to tell you something, man. I have not enjoyed an interview this much in quite a while. Okay, man? I really enjoyed this. But we're out of time, man. What do you want to leave us with?
Well, I would just say this, given the present environment that we're dealing with this election that has been such a scandal. I mean, it's an embarrassment, number one, because everyone looks up to America. I live in Malta, as I said. I travel the world, and people always look up to America. This is an embarrassment as an American citizen, number one. And number two, this has to be rectified now. So, again, people should come forward, like I came forward, to have the courage to expose the truth, no matter what your political affiliation is. If we start stealing elections, as I feel this election has been stolen from the president, quite frankly, and I have many reasons why, but we don't have the time to get into it. The point is this. If you know about wrongdoing, and especially wrongdoing like this in this election, come forward and report it. So given this political environment we're in with this contested election, which is very important, I travel the world. I live in Malta, and people look up to America. And it's embarrassing as an American citizen to have to try and explain this, that we have a system that does not work. It's a banana republic with this vote. And it was stolen, in my opinion, and I want the truth to come out. So I would expect people to come forward if they know the truth, whatever political affiliation they are, and do the right thing. Why? Because as I did the right thing, it helps all of us. And we must get to the truth, and we must fix this election, because this is an embarrassment, and it's a scandal that will go down in history.
Mr. Birkenfeld, thank you so much. The book is called Lucifer's Banker Uncensored. The website is lucifersbanker.com. The guest is Bradley C. Birkenfeld. Mr. Birkenfeld, thank you so much.
And thank you, and have a very wonderful day.
Good night.